Hi, and welcome to the Hairbow Masters channel. These are the sizes of ribbon that we are going to be working with today. You can go ahead and pause the video so that you can get your pieces out. Alright, once you have all your pieces cut, we are going to start with the longer pieces, the 30-inch pieces. And the first thing we need to do on one end of it is make a tail. And that tail is going to be 3 inches or 7.5 centimeters long. So we're going to measure that and fold that over, and then we're going to go ahead and put a crease in it. You can use your hair straightener to do this, or you can use a lighter. I like to use the hair straightener because it's a lot easier. And that'll give it a nice good crease. So now we have our 3-inch tail at one end. Then we are going to take the other end and fold over your tail and line up the ends so that you fold the piece in half, and then take your straightener or your lighter and put a crease in what is going to be our center. And we're going to do the exact same thing to our other 30-inch piece. So just go down to where it says 3 inches and fold it down to that. And then you can just check it to make sure that it's 3 inches or 7.5 centimeters. And then go ahead and put your crease in the end of that. And then once again we're going to take the other side and fold it up to meet where we creased that at, and then put a crease where we have our second fold. And we're going to do the exact same thing to the two 28-inch pieces as well. So now go back to our 30-inch pieces here, and the part that has the tail, we're going to have that pointed up, and the part that doesn't have the tail we're going to work with first. And what we're going to do is take it and we're going to put it in the center of where our crease is. So just put a little bit of glue right where the crease is, and then stick that end without the tail halfway up and halfway in between where the crease is at. Now we're going to turn it, and we're going to be working on the end that has the tail on it. And what we're going to do is take the tail and put it underneath where our other pieces, so underneath the back side of the crease. And you can just fold back that the ribbon in half, and that way you can see right where you need to put the glue, and then stick that down. So that way the crease is exactly met up with the end of the side that does not have the tail. Now we're going to find the center, so use your finger to hold the bottom part to where you can find the center of your loop, and then put a crease in that, and then turn it, and we're going to do the same thing to the other side. You want to find the exact center so that these will line up properly when we glue them down. Now what we're going to do is we're going to line that crease up with the corner on each side. So right where it comes in at a V, we're going to line the crease that we just made up with that. And the crease is going to fall right across that center part. And then we're going to take a pin, and we're going to pin that in place to hold it. And then we're going to do the same thing to the other side. So make sure the crease is touching the part where it V's in. And then we're going to pin that piece in place as well. Alright, once we have those pinned in place, we're going to turn it over, because we're going to be working with that back side. That's going to end up being our top. And we're going to need to get out our thread. I like to use embroidery thread because it's nice and strong and I can match the colors easily. Make sure you knot the bottom of it. And then we're going to put 6 stitches. So we're going to go in 1, up 2, to the center 1, or sorry, 3, then 4, and then back down is 5, and then back up is 6. And these stitches are going to be about a centimeter apart from each other so that they're nice and even. And then once we've got that, we're going to pull the thread all the way through. This is why you want to make sure there's a knot on the end, and very carefully pull it. And while you're pulling it, make sure that it has 3 creases in it. Now take the end of your thread and pull it out just a little bit so you have some thread to tie, and wrap it around a good 2 or 3 times, and then turn it over and knot it. And you can use a square knot so that it holds better, and just give it a good couple, 2 or 3 knots to make sure that that's going to hold and not come apart. And then just take your scissors and snip it off. And if you want to, you can use your hot glue and put a little drop on the knot to make sure that it stays, but that is optional. You don't have to do that. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. It just depends on how good the knots are. We're going to set that aside, and I'm going to show you one more time on the other 30-inch piece, and then you're going to do the exact same thing on the 28-inch pieces, where you have your 3-inch tail and everything. The only difference is that it's just going to be a little smaller is all. But we're doing the exact same process. So the part where your tail is, make sure it's pointed up, and we're going to be working with our center crease. So take the part that does not have the tail, make sure it goes to the right, and then onto the center of that crease. Make sure that it sets in the center of the ribbon, as well as the end being centered across that line. And you only need a little tiny bit of glue because this is just to hold it in place for us. We could pin it as well, but it's a lot harder to get the pins out afterwards, and that's why I like to use glue for this. And then with your end that does have the tail, we're going to make a figure 8, but we're going to put it underneath, and right where that crease is going to basically meet up, but on the back side, with where we put the end of our other ribbon. So you can fold that over so you can see where that crease is, and line that end where you have it folded over right with the crease on the 3-inch tail. And then you can hold that, and then we're going to put a little bit of glue on that, just a little tiny bit, just enough to hold it in place, and then fold that over and stick it down. And then we're going to make our center creases, so hold it right where the V is and pull up your loop to where you found the center, and hold that while you use your straightener or your lighter to put a crease in that. And do the same thing for the other side. Hold it where the V is, pull up the loop, find your middle, and then put your crease in that as well. Now we're going to line up the outside part of the loop where the center is with the V for that side, so that the line lays across the center there. And then we're going to pin that in place. So take your pin and just put it across there so that it doesn't move. And then we're going to do the same thing for the other loop. Make sure the outside part of the line is lined up with the V, and then pin that in place. And remember, we're going to do this exact same thing with the 28-inch pieces too. Only difference is the loops are going to be a little bit smaller, but it's the exact same process. So turn it over, and then take your thread, and we're going to do 6 stitches. So you're going to go and make them about 1 centimeter apart. And that way we have 3 creases. So you go in and up 6 times so that there are 3 creases, and pull your pins out, and then push your needle all the way through. Make sure you're holding those creases so they don't come back out. Leave a little bit of a tail at the end, and then wrap it around 2 or 3 times. And then we're going to go ahead and tie that on the back side. And you can use a square knot or just a good 2 or 3 regular knots. And like I said, optionally you can put a piece, a little bit of drop of hot glue on there so that your knot doesn't come out. And like I said, that's optional. On this one I chose not to do that because the knots were holding good enough, and we're going to glue these together in a little bit anyways. And what I'm doing is just shaping it just to kind of make sure the loops are kind of sitting right. And for the next process, you're going to put the 2 bigger ones together and the 2 smaller ones together. So what we're doing right now with the bigger ones, you're going to do the exact same process with the smaller ones. And so we're going to glue these together. You want to make sure that the tail part is to the outside. So on the other side that doesn't have the tail on it, we're going to open those sides up. Make sure one tail is up and one tail is down. And open up that other side so that you can get to the center, because we're going to put some glue on that, and do the same thing to the other one. Make sure that that's kind of opened up where you can get to the center, and we're going to put some glue on there so that those centers are glued together. So it'll make it basically an octopus bow instead of a boutique double bow. So just put your hot glue on the center there and hold them together until the glue cools down to make sure that they're going to stay. And then I like to use the thread to also wrap around that center just to give it a little extra strength, because these are pretty big and heavy bows. So I like to make sure that these are not going to come apart from each other. So I just take a little bit of the embroidery thread and just wrap it around both of the bows around the center, and then give that a good couple of knots as well. And that'll make sure that those hold really nicely. And at this point I am going to go ahead and put a drop of hot glue on there, since there's a little bit of extra stress in that center on that knot. And we're going to do the exact same thing, like I said, to the smaller pieces. So you can rewind this video and go through the process again, just with the smaller pieces. And then when you have them both, we're going to go over what we're going to do with the tails. So now we're going to cut the ends of our tails just to give them a nice little look. So just going to go and measure down on one side about 1.5 centimeters, and cut it from one corner to that 1.5 centimeters mark, so that you just have a nice little angle, and that just gives it a really cute look for those tails. And we're going to do that on all 4 of the tails. So there's 2 on the bottom and 2 on the top. Make sure that the part that you measured down the 1.5 centimeters is to the inside, so that the longer part is to the outsides on each of the pieces. And now I'm just going to do the exact same thing with the top. And for me, I can eyeball it because I've done this for so long. You can use your ruler if you want and measure down on that inner part 1.5 centimeters and put a little mark there with like a disappearing ink marker or something, and start from the outer edge corner and just line your scissors up with that dot and then cut it so that they're exactly even if you want. I mean, I've gotten to a point where I can just eyeball it now, and they're pretty even. And these don't have to be absolutely perfect. Just remember that. We're not going for perfection here. The more you do this, the better you'll get at it. So now we're just going to glue that top part, the smaller one, to the larger bottom part. So just put some glue in the center and put both of those together. And then just let that glue cool for a second to make sure it holds. And that'll hold it in place so it doesn't move around as we wrap more thread around the center. And because this bow is nice and thick and pretty large, I like to use the thread to give it, and the glue, to give it some extra hold so that it will definitely not come apart. So I'm just going to wrap the thread around the center a good 2, 3, maybe even 4 times at this point to make sure that the whole bow is going to hold together really nicely. And make sure you pull the thread nice and tight and give it some really good knots. As you can see, I'm doing a square knot here to make sure that it doesn't come apart. And then we're going to just snip that with our scissors and put a drop of hot glue on that knot so that it stays. And now I like to put the 3/8 inch ribbon that matches around that part to cover, not for several reasons, to not just cover the thread and the raw edge or the raw pieces in the center there, but also to really give that bow like extra hold all the way around it, because we're going to glue the sides, the back, the top, and wrap it back around to make sure that that holds. And that way when we put our center knot on, if it kind of comes to the side a little, then the client's not seeing any of the raw threads at all. Because sometimes kids kind of pull at their bows, you know, and it just gives it a really nice finished look. So yeah, you just wrap it around the whole center and cut it at the end there on the back, and just use your lighter to seal the ends of the ribbon, and then just glue down that other side. And that's it. It gives it a really nice, good finished look. Just a little extra I like to do. And now we're going to do the knot. So take your 6-inch piece of your 1.5 inch grosgrain. You're going to fold it in half the long ways, and you can, if you want to, you can use your straightener or your lighter to put the crease in there. That's just fine. Or you can just do it like I'm doing and just kind of hold it. And we're going to make our knot by wrapping it around our fingers and then just pulling the one side through. And make sure you don't pull it tight, because you want a nice big juicy knot on there. And now we're going to measure it so we know where to cut it, because we're going to have to seal the ends of those and make sure that the where it's folded in half is not going to be coming apart when we put our backing on. So I'm just wrapping it around right now, and I'm just measuring where I've got to cut it. You want to lay it across to the other side and then cut it right there. You can use, you could put a little crease in it like I just did, and then cut across where the crease is at. And then I'm going to take that off of there, and I'm going to go ahead and put the ends together and use my lighter to seal the ends and also tap them together so that the ends stick together. And that way it makes kind of like a little pocket there. And I'm going to turn it around and do the same thing to the other side. We're going to make sure that the end is sealed and that they stick together. And just be careful, because the ribbon can get pretty darn hot. And then now we've got 2 little pocket areas. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up those pockets, and I'm going to take a little bit of the hot glue and run it just along the edge of the pocket there, and then put the other side to it so that that pocket is closed. And you can use 7/8 inch ribbon for the knot if you want to. I just think it doesn't give it as big of a knot as using the 1.5 inch ribbon like this and folding it in half. So that's why I'm using it like that and folding it in half there. So now we're going to go ahead and put our knot on our bow, and what we're going to do is we're going to wrap the knot around it and put on our backing. So you're going to just put a little bit of glue at the top center there. You don't want too much because you don't want that glue coming out the sides and showing. So just a tiny bit of glue just to make sure it's not going to slide around. And then turn it over, and we're going to stick our backing to it. So we're going to put a little bit of glue onto the back, and we're going to take our 3-inch alligator clip and stick it right to that glue. Make sure that it's staying in place there. And now we're just going to glue down each side of the center knot tails, and we're going to put that across the alligator clip to make sure that it holds down really nicely. So just glue one side, open up your clip, put it down, and then we're going to put glue on the other side and open up the clip and put that right across there. And this way we ensure that our clip's not going to come off because we basically double glued it. And then if any glue shows or anything, you can just kind of use your lighter to make it look clear again, and just make sure that those ends are all down nicely. And then once you're done with the whole thing, you're going to just kind of use your fingers to go into the loops and just kind of pull them and twist them and kind of shape them to make sure that your bow just sits the way that it's supposed to, and everything's like lined up and nice. And I just use my middle finger and my pointer finger to just go into the loops and kind of pull them out and, you know, back so that they all kind of sit the way that they're supposed to. And there's so many things you can do with this style. As you can see, I've made the solid one, and then I've also made one where I've used 2 colors and even did a 2-color center knot with it. And then this one I've done in 3 colors for Christmas, but you can also do 4 colors. It's just up to your imagination. Well, thanks for joining the Hairbow Master. I hope you had fun, and I'll see you in the next video.